Today's guest returns to bring something we don't get enough of anymore: perspective earned over time. Cordell J. Overgaard has lived through decades of change across law, media, politics, and technology. From corporate law to radio and television to firsthand experience inside our political system, his story isn't just about what changed, it's about what those changes have cost us. His new memoir, Watching Things Change, reflects on the evolution of American life, the growing gap between institutions and everyday people, and what the future may hold as technology continues to reshape everything we know. Let's welcome Cordell back.
Well, welcome back. Thank you for joining me again.
Good to see you. Thank you.
I'm especially happy to have you back because first and foremost, you were such an intriguing guest. You've lived such a wealth of experiences that most of us just have not. So I'm excited I get to have you come back and expand on some of these things. I've had people ask me about different aspects that you mentioned, and they wanted to know more. And of course, I told them, get the book.
That's a good idea.
Well, get the book, first of all. So I was so pleased to find out that you were coming back again. One of the things, after our last conversation, I found myself thinking about, just all of those stories that we didn't have time to finish. So today we're just going to, and this is for everybody watching and listening, we're picking up our conversation from where we left off. And we're going to touch on some of those things. And right off the bat, one of them I would love to ask you about is you've seen politics from the inside. It's an angle most of us don't get to see that machine working from. And you had mentioned being in the White House after Watergate, which is just what a time in history. It had to have been such an extraordinary atmosphere there at that time. What did it actually feel like to be there during that time?
Well, when I was there, Watergate had just happened, and we weren't at the stage where the revelations came out about all of the things that were being talked about by Nixon and his aides. There was one person who was sitting at the table who said, "Oh, we wouldn't be involved in anything like that." And of course, he knew more than he let on at the time. So it was quite a shock when Watergate. And one of the things I think is important is that Republicans, and I was a Republican then, stepped up and said, "Hey, this is not right, and we need to do something about it." And so Republicans went and talked to Nixon and said, "No, you can't go on like this." And he stepped down. I don't think we have people like that around like we did then who would step up and say what needed to be done.
People at that time probably thought, it can't get worse than this. Well, buckle up. That became, a lot of that became almost tame. The things that were, and I remember this as a child too, certain things that were going on in politics that I only had vague understanding of were so shocking. And the very same things today, aren't even a blip on the radar anymore. So
you're so right about that.
Right.
It's amazing.
It is. It's disheartening, isn't it? Like there is that the moral compass. I hate to believe that it's gone, but it sure feels like it is, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
What do ordinary Americans misunderstand about how government actually works?
Well, there's a way that they're supposed to work.
Yeah.
But whether they're working that way or not is another question.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give you an example. I don't think they are working the way they are. Let's take Congress and our senators and representatives. A lot of them have become like robots. Take, for example, a hearing about the nomination of Todd Blanche to be Attorney General. There's no way he should become Attorney General. And you'll have these senators there who talk and just kind of ask questions and so forth, but they're robots and they're going to vote a certain way no matter what. And it's a very sad situation.
Yeah, it is. Do you feel like this was at play? This kind of this game, almost, I guess I would call it, was going on back then Or is this just a new evolution of politics where you just can't find anyone who's truly in it for the right reasons? I feel like we're very disenfranchised from the whole process, that we have nothing to do with it, and it's just all them. And you hear it all the time, why should I bother voting, because it
Right.
doesn't matter. Do you feel like that this is just such a grotesque evolution of society? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I like to, maybe it's not exactly in the same area as you're talking about, but right now we have an affordability problem.
Mhm.
And it's a big problem, but it's been talked about. It was talked about when Biden and Kamala Harris were running. And I think the fact that they didn't have anything to say about it other than let's not tax tips, that, that led to Trump getting elected, and people were looking to him to do something about affordability. And he hasn't really done anything. And as a matter of fact, I haven't heard or seen any politician from either party really step up and say, this is what we need to do about it. It is a problem. It's a serious problem. And the main problem, because of affordability, is income and wealth inequality, which has increased over the years substantially. And you have a lot of people at the lower end of the income center that can hardly afford to do things. And if they have some kind of casualty, they're really stuck. This is unacceptable. And I think that there are two main things that need to be done about it. Number one, we must have universal health care. There's organizations. There's one organization that it's a 38-member organization of countries, major countries. All of them, except the United States, have universal health care. And it's just unbelievable that we don't have it. The other thing that needs to be done with is taxes. Income tax, we have to increase taxes, mainly on the wealthy. Now, that's easier said than done. It's not easy because you just can't increase rates. You've got to deal with the different things that are being done with the rules that enable people to avoid paying it. But we have to raise more income. There's just no question about it. But that's only a start, these two things. There really is so much that needs to be done for the lower income people. And I'm very concerned about it.
This has been an ongoing argument in our society for quite some time now, and there hasn't been any budge.
Well, what has anybody come up with, any of the politicians come up with to deal with affordability? If they have something, I haven't seen it or heard it.
Right. I haven't either, to be honest with you. And I tell you, I have. You tell me if I'm being completely unfair in saying this. I feel like that this is deliberate. That if we don't have a dependent society, if you don't have poverty and people dependent on government help and aid, then they lose control. So I guess what I'm getting to is that I feel like this is not a problem that they want to fix. Am I unfair in saying that?
I don't know that they don't want to fix it. They just are not sure what to do, and they are afraid the things that might be done would not be the kind of things they'd like to see. But we have another problem which comes into this too, and that is that people who are at the lower income level and are suffering, people are voting against themselves. They're getting information from who knows where and are taking positions in the voting that is not good for their own interests. But that's a whole different issue.
We could go down many, many paths with this, couldn't we?
Yes, we could.
Looking back on your life now, is there a prediction about America that you had then that you feel like you might have gotten wrong, or even which ones were you spot on about?
Well, I was pretty confident that the United States was a sound government and was going to proceed and do things that they need to be done. But so much has changed. And as I said, I think I may have used this expression, so many of our senators and representatives are robots, and
right.
they really are not dealing with the problems that need to be dealt with now. And it's very concerning, and it's affecting us not only domestically but also internationally too.
Yeah.
And that concerns me.
Talk to me about what's happening right now with the Supreme Court. There's quite a lot going on. So, I mean, you could really pick any portion of that you want to address.
I have strong concerns about the Supreme Court. I think that it has drastically damaged our country. And let me start, and I'll try to go over this quickly. The Second Amendment, which says that a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Well, the Supreme Court, with an opinion written by my former classmate at Harvard Law School, Scalia, said, well, the preparatory language, we don't need that anymore about a well-regulated militia. Well, if you take that language out, then it's saying the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So that means you have a difficult time passing any kind of gun control legislation, which is ridiculous. And that I shouldn't say this, but there was a hearing the other day at Congress, and one of the Supreme Court people was there and mentioned that she was wearing a bulletproof vest. I mean, we have so much violence and domestic. I mean, every day you look on TV or in the newspaper, there's been somebody hurt or killed, mainly killed. So many people killed by gun violence. The other thing, Citizens United, which led to the creation of super PACs, where we have all this money, substantial amounts of money coming into our political system. And that money isn't coming there just for fun. People are contributing large sums of money because they hope to get something out of it. And that's a serious problem. And then the Supreme Court just recently held that the president can remove the people who are with government agencies without cause. Just remove them. They made an exception for the Federal Reserve System. But just imagine if you would think that you'd have members of some of these organizations who would have positions that maybe the president doesn't agree with it, but think that he could just go up and say, well, you're out.
Well, there's no agreement in what people believe that the president should and shouldn't be allowed to do. Federal and lower courts have weighed in and made judgments and rulings. And I don't recall ever seeing such a massive, there's always been a divide, of course, but such an extreme, massive divide between parties and, more importantly, between people, between the average Americans, that everything that we determine about another person is based off of their political beliefs. Do you remember it ever being like this before? I mean, because literally everything is political now.
I do not recall it being this way. I do not recall it being this way. But let me add one other thing about the Supreme Court, and that is their members have done some things that you've had. Judge Clarence Thomas has received numerous free trips. And Scalia, in a recent book, said that from the 2004 until the time of his death, he'd taken more than 250 privately funded trips. There have been calls for an ethic program at the Supreme Court, and the Chief Justice has resisted that. Now, I'm not saying that all those trips are bad. I mean, for a Supreme Court to receive money to go to a conference on legal matters or this and that and so forth, that's okay. But for them to take trips that are paid for by private individuals to do who knows what, that's not acceptable either. So we have a serious problem with the Supreme Court.
What do you think should happen with the Supreme Court in order to improve or just simply better these conditions?
Well, there are not many options. FDR found that out. One of the things that could be done, but it never was going to happen, you could increase the number of members on the Supreme Court and appoint some ones who have a different perspective. But that's very unlikely to happen. So I really don't see any way that it's going to change. And I would hope that some of them would start to think, well, gee, maybe we should do things a little bit different because we're not headed in the right direction. But that's maybe just wishful thinking.
You mentioned earlier that back around the Nixon timeframe that you were a Republican. Did you? I'm kind of getting the impression that you got disappointed with the party. Is that accurate to say?
Actually, I had some really good experiences with the Republican Party at the state level in Illinois, where there's some really great Republicans. We had Governor Thompson, who was outstanding, and it was really something. What really made me change, believe it or not, was the war against Ukraine. When Biden, not Biden, but Bush decided to bomb, I thought, why in the world are we doing this? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So that changed my thinking.
Sure. And, whichever side of politics that you're on, when you see your party changing from the beliefs that you've always held and the values that you believe in, and you see that does not seem to be aligned anymore, it's got to be such a feeling of displacement almost when you don't have that alignment, because again, that's so much of what our life is based on or determined by. What happens in the political arena obviously affects us tremendously. What do you think our bigger problem is? Is it bad leadership or is it disengaged citizens?
I think it's disengaged citizens, or maybe also citizens who are not getting the information from the right place. And really, as I said before, we have people who are voting against their own interests. And I don't know how you change that. But I would be hopeful that we would start to get some candidates that have a different perspective and are willing to do things that some of the others are not willing to do now.
Yeah. Well, you hit on, a tremendously serious problem that we have in society now with, with thanks, and I mean that sarcastically to some degree, to social media. We have information overload. We're getting actually too much information. Again, to touch on before, there's this massive divide. And so you have one group of people only listening to one narrative, we'll call it, and you have another group of people listening to the exact opposite, and there is no middle ground. I can't tell you how many times I've searched, done searches for, is there a completely unbiased news source that just says the news without opinion, without spin, without, any extra, just exactly what happened, and then let me decide how I feel about it. And I can't find anything. Have you found anything? Because we need to know if you have.
I really have, but you mentioned a really, really serious problem that we have now. And in my book, I mentioned that there was a study that was done that indicated that many of the social media posts are providing information that's not reliable. So that's not unusual, but it's very difficult.
Yeah, it is. It is. I have to go back to something that you said, and I kind of chuckle a little bit because and we talked about it last time very, very briefly too. And for you, it was such an aside when you said it, but I know for myself and my audience, we were kind of like very impressed. You very casually mentioned that you went to Harvard, you were in corporate law, radio ownership, television, working with presidents, of course. You've accomplished an extraordinary amount of things in your life, yet you spoke about it very, very humbly. Are you not at all impressed with yourself, sir? Because I think you deserve to be a little bit. That is quite a varied career. Would you mind talking a little bit more about it and just sharing a little bit of that story for anyone who missed it the first time around?
I feel very, very fortunate. My parents were not wealthy. I went to the University of Illinois, Chicago, University of Illinois Chicago program for 2 years, and then went into the military and got the GI Bill. And with that, I was able to go downstate to Champaign for senior year. And then fortunately, I got a scholarship from Harvard and went to Harvard Law School. But I've been fortunate along the way that things have worked out. But you constantly have to be thinking about what's around you and what you're doing and what you should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't always get it right. I didn't always get it right.
Yeah,
I did enjoy being in politics in Illinois.
Yeah,
Because I really met some very good people.
that's so nice. Such a nice bright spot in, as we've been talking about politics quite a bit, what a nice bright spot to have in that experience when, it feels like everything that has to do with politics is very dark and ugly, particularly these days. One of the things you said last time that really struck me was you said you told people to watch for opportunities, and you touched on it.
Yes.
Were there opportunities that you almost missed? Or missed completely?
I'm sure there were. I think I probably should have stayed involved with cable television longer than I did. But other than that, and of course, radio changed so much that I had to move out of that. But you just constantly have to be thinking about what's around. And
Yeah.
I never thought when I was in college that I would be involved with cable television or AM radio, even ethnic radio stations. So, but you have to look for opportunities.
Yeah.
And
That's so true. Yeah, it's I hate to use a cliche, but you have to use that out of the box thinking, right? And not just keep looking at the same box that everybody's looking at and look around and see what else there is or what other opportunities, right?
Right.
One of the other things that you mentioned that we had talked about a little bit was AI, but we didn't really go too far into it. And now, even since the last time we've talked, there have been even more advances with AI, and some people maybe wouldn't call them advances because they're not pleased with it. But share with me a little bit your thoughts on what you're seeing with AI right now in regards to businesses, jobs, careers, all of those things.
Well, my involvement with AI has been in trying to communicate sometimes with corporations or online and so forth. And there's a robot that's responding to you. Sometimes the robots even talk to you. But unless it's a very straightforward question they're always used to, if it's at all complicated, you get lost.
Right?
I confess I am very uneducated about AI. I don't understand it really that much. And I don't expect to, but I hope that I will be able to survive it.
There's a very large part of me that says, good for you. Like, don't even, I tell some people every once in a while, I still talk to people that say they don't go on social media at all. And every time I tell them, good for you, don't do it. If you're not on it, stay off it, live your life, enjoy, touching grass and seeing sky and and having real conversations with real people instead of silly internet arguments with keyboard warriors basically. So yeah, I do not knock you at all for not being first on the AI trend. It's the Wild West, and I think it will always be. I think it was one of those things that, like, once Pandora's box was opened, it is what it is now. There's tremendous good in it, but there's also tremendous bad in it as well.
A lot of people are worried about it.
Yes. Yeah, and rightly so for different reasons, right?
Yeah, what's it going to do to their future and their jobs and so forth. I have a granddaughter, and she's in college, and we keep talking about you have to be thinking about what you're going to be doing when you graduate. And she's doing some really serious thinking and wants to get involved in a field that maybe is going to be making different things that will be important in our going forward. But it's really something that's complicated and very difficult to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't envy the college kids of today or the youth of today, because they're just their experiences are so wildly different than what you or I experienced during our school years. That kind of leads me to a question. I think it's an interesting question. I don't know if you will. I hope you will. If you, I hope so. Just pretend like you are. If you were 25 years old today, right now, what career would you choose?
I might choose law. Law has changed so much. But, and of course, I had a CPA too, but I don't know. I'd have to see probably the law and something involving business.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure what it would be.
There's so many things out there. There's so many avenues and lanes. If you could give young people entering the workforce right now a bit of advice, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to be very alert about what is going on in the industry they're involved in and in other industries, and to see where constantly be thinking about where there may be other opportunities. Opportunities for employment, or even maybe to get involved in starting some business. You just have to be constantly thinking about what could be available, and you didn't have to do that so much when I was young, because it's changing so much.
Sure. Your memoir, it also has a lot of practical, useful advice and encouragements, mined from a lifetime of experience. Can you tell everyone where they can find your book? And I don't know if you do any like book signing events or anything like that, but if you do, feel free to include that.
Well, it certainly is available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. I think I'm going to be doing a bookstore visit here in Arizona next month.
Nice.
And I'm asked whether I want to do one in Miami. I don't know. In August, maybe. We'll see. But it's supposedly being presented in a lot of bookstores around the country. And as I say, it is available at Barnes and Noble and Amazon.
Wonderful. It was such an honor to have you come back on and share your insights and your book and your thoughts with me. I appreciate you coming back.
Well, I enjoyed it. So it's so great to talk to you and hear what your thoughts are too.
Wonderful. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. You can get those links. You can get Cordell's book in the links in the show notes. We look forward to seeing you guys next time. Take care.
You've got a story worth sharing. Now it's time to tell it well. Whether you're an author, entrepreneur, influencer, or podcast guest, stepping in front of the camera or microphone can feel overwhelming. On the other side of the mic is your practical, encouraging guide to becoming a confident, authentic, and engaging interviewee. Written by media personality and best-selling author Elsa, this book blends real-world wisdom from hundreds of interviews with a touch of humor, grace, and heart. It's more than a how-to. It's a roadmap to presence, professionalism, and peace in every conversation.